Wayfinder is going to be okay, and let me explain why. Now, recently, players and the developers at Airship Syndicate were blindsided with some unfortunate events when their publisher Digital Extremes would pull out of its duties to focus its resources internally, which should be internal projects like Warframe, Soulframe, and so on, and would stop supporting Wayfinder. Unfortunately, they would lay off more than 30 employees at Digital Extremes. It's really sad to see these things keep happening so often in the gaming space. Additionally, this also means the end of Wayfinder Wednesday, which was a bi-weekly newsletter handled by Digital Extremes. It's where they went and posted details of upcoming content and released their patch notes. Nonetheless, Airship Syndicate does a really good job at communicating via the Discord to their community. A lot of the times I'll hop on Discord and get information that wasn't even on the newsletter. Frankly, in some ways, it's better than the newsletter. Now let me explain why Digital Extremes leaving could be the best thing to happen to Wayfinder. After Digital Extremes' departure, it was announced seasons would be paused. When Wayfinder entered early access on August 17, we were promised a seasonal model that live game services tend to favor. There's associations we make as gamers as we hear seasons. We think here's a game that has a seasonal model. We expect them to have their schedule down and to produce content on a timely manner, usually in the span of 3 months, and to have enough content to keep us entertained till next season. At least that's always the hope. In Wayfinder's case, we had to purchase Founder Packs to get to play in early access that included Founder Season 1 and 2. This came with a new character, themed reward tower, new weapons, quests, and new locations. And on paper, this sounds great, but this sets expectations that a completed game does. Now, I don't particularly dislike or love seasonal models, but I'm okay with them. I know more or less what I'm getting. Now, there are plenty of popular games that didn't start off with a seasonal model until they were established and had the core mechanics of their game functioning. Make no mistake, pulling off a seasonal model is a hard endeavor. Digital Extremes' exit will and has given Wayfinder time to reevaluate and be able to be what it is, an early access game. And as an early access game, it cannot release seasonal content in a timely manner while simultaneously fixing and preparing the game for full release. Other than for monetization purposes, I don't think Wayfinder should have launched their early access with seasons to begin with. Now, whether that was a Digital Extremes or an Airship Syndicate idea, I don't know. In regards to monetization, this is one of the Wayfinder's strong points, and undoubtedly one of the reasons the game still has a loyal fan base. There is a no pay to win aspect that has so commonly ruined good games. Also, I want to add that I'm not saying the seasonal model won't work or that I'm not in favor for it, because I am, but wait till the game fully releases. Going forward, instead of getting these large seasonal drops like we get with seasons, we will be getting pieces of content alongside patches and fixes in a drip. This way, the expectations are more manageable. I know a lot of people were worried when the news broke out, but Wayfinder will be okay, and maybe even better with the pause on seasons. Additionally, the developer said that they will be able to release content a lot faster now, so we have that to look forward to. With that, I want to pivot to some community concerns becoming a priority, and I will tie some of my personal concerns in hopes that I can rally Wayfinders to push for this, but I do think they are necessary for the longevity of the game. Wayfinder's open zones and Wayfinder's game loop. Experiencing Highlands for the first time was a lot of fun, to roam the open areas and encounter world events alongside your other Wayfinders, or encountering world bosses for the first time just to get pulverized because you're way underleveled was an experience. But I was sad to see that Wayfinder had only one open zone. Sure, the dungeons are nice and the procedurally generated dungeons and imbuements keep it fresh, but after clearing Highlands, a chunk of the game loop that you were used to doing from when you first started was suddenly gone, and it wasn't replaced with anything. I will say Airship Syndicate does a really good job at listening to their community, and now that they are on their own, they might be more perceptive to prioritize certain content if the community pushes for it, For example, the much needed XP boost that was implemented recently only came together after Airship went to digital extremes and they got the green light. So they are listening and have made leveling your weapons and characters feel fun again. At launch, I do think Wayfinder needs a minimum of 3 to 5 open zones to really compete with other games. At the same time, this game needs to create these open zones with the transversal of mechanics. I'm talking about the mounts, the hookshot mechanics that will make for some special interactions with the world and activities. I know these asks will not happen overnight, but these are things that we need to start marching towards now to get Wayfinder moving in the right direction, even if it leaves Wayfinder in early access for a year longer. They have adjusted their calendar and have begun to make community concerns priorities. The developer said raids will come much sooner and will be priority. That's right, raids are coming and possibly winter too. They stated that raids were not a priority with the old schedule and were not planned for Season 2, meaning we could possibly get raids in between now and Season 2 or when Season 2 launches. They also said the first raid would be an introduction to raids rather than what they have in mind for the full release late game raids. But nonetheless, it'll be great to add some kind of new Wayfinder content to the game loop and not just running the same old dungeons. Previously, they said they were planning on making raids designed for more than 3 people. How many players would you guys prefer, and what do you guys want to see for your very first raids? I do plan on making an entirely different video on an open discussion on raids, so keep an eye out for that. Lastly, when it comes to community concerns, I want to talk about the game's UI performance issues. I won't speculate too much on this because there is an upcoming patch for early December that promises over 2,000 bug fixes and changes with the patch 2.0. We also can expect to get some weapon and stat rebalances, new customization options, and the ability to earn cosmetics in-game, which is my favorite update. Again, Airship is hard at work, and I have all the faith in them that they will pull it off. All right, I want to wrap this up with what Airship will most likely do to bring the player base back and how important it is they catch the next surge of players. Wayfinder, it had a multitude of issues on launch, and no one can deny that. You had to enter these long queues to get in the game, and even if you were one of the lucky ones to get in, the game still suffered from frequent in-game disconnects, and you were stuck in this loop of waiting and playing, waiting and playing. But once stabilized, you got to see what Wayfinder was. At the core, it was a fun-to-play action RPG with huge potential and still does have huge potential. In the beginning, you had a variety of things to do, and for the first 20 to 40 hours, depending on how long it took you to complete the quests, you for the most part were having fun because you were leveling up alongside the quests, but then you encountered like the XP problem and the lack of activities in the game loop. First impressions are important. Now you have a chunk of the player base who may or may not ever come back to Wayfinder because of the launch issues. But let's not forget the Xbox player base who at this moment can't even play the game. But when the game releases, the floodgates will open and you'll have all these new players that haven't even touched the game yet. You have one more chance with the returning players, which will most likely be at the launch of Season 2 or at the full release of the game. And because of that, it's important that Wayfinder stay in early access for as long as possible. I do think that Wayfinder is pivoting towards this. Some people may not agree with me, but I think Wayfinder needs to stay in early access for a year or longer. Bottom line is Airship is up and still functioning. They are far from done, and I, for one, am hopeful for what's to come. Anyway, guys, let me know what you guys think. Do you agree? Do you hate my ideas? If you like this video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. I got more videos dropping soon, so don't forget to hit that sub button to keep up to date with the latest Wayfinder updates. You guys could also catch me streaming on Twitch. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.